What's up, champ? Hope you're having a great day. Another day, another true versation. Coming to you live from the podcast studio, aka my living room, aka my bedroom, aka where I stretch every morning, aka our ghetto garden. It keeps growing. I promise you, if anybody leaves a comment here, I will do almost like MTV Cribs, but MTV Plants, where I show you all my plants. I have at least 55, I think now is the last time I counted, and we're still growing. Now, if you like what we're putting up, like anything, just a little inclination, maybe it's the second time you're here around listening, I really would appreciate it. If you could just take one time, press that subscribe button. There's a little bell icon next to it, just press that. It doesn't really matter because you're probably not spending that much time on YouTube anyway, and if you are, congrats, you're gonna see everything we're uploading, which would be amazing. Comment, would really appreciate that. You could leave a comment. What do you think of the things we're putting up? Because we're constantly doing our best to improve. And if you do this, I promise you that I will work tirelessly until the end of time to improve this podcast. I'm really dedicated to do this, and I really enjoy doing it, but I would enjoy it even more if I could know what you like. Now, in true versation spirit, we will start today off with a quote. The quote goes as follows. It's from one of the Stoic philosophers called Marcus Aurelius. And he says the following: "The impediment of action advances the action. What stands in the way becomes the way." So I'm going to take a little sip of water here. I'm going to let you guys ponder upon what I just said, and I'm going to repeat it. The impediment of action advances the action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Let's look up the word impediment so we all know and can ponder upon this together. The impediment means a hindrance or obstruction in doing something. So the obstruction of action advances the action. So if something is standing in your way, it also becomes the way. And what I like about this quote is because I think that has been the highlight of my last 8 years. Like, this has been the mindset since I started becoming a professional dancer, literally. Like, the impediment of action, the hindrance, the obstacle becomes the way. It's a fantastic book written by Ryan Holiday. Disclaimer, I'm saying it's a fantastic book. Actually never read it. I listened to it one time. Really enjoyed it, and I read the Blinkist. Probably buy it when I go back to Europe. However, when you're faced with an opportunity to turn a setback or something is standing in front of you, a hindrance, when you're faced with that, you have the internal responsibility to do something about it and make that the way. And like I said, this has been the title of my life since I started dancing, coaching, whatever the case may be. Started dancing, had to do 2 knee surgeries, have to make my dance evolve around those surgeries. There's 4 is why I have a very specific style. Then I do coaching. I study in a different country, so I need to learn that language, which is why I can speak multiple languages now. So what stood in my way later became my way. So I took that education in a different language that I later learned how to talk, or I had to learn the language, and I took that education. Then I continued on with that, and I molded that into training specifically for dancers. Kept on doing that for a couple of years. What ended up happening, I now have to do another surgery. There's another surgery coming around. And as a result of that, I keep moving, and all of these things keep spiraling, become bigger on social media, lose my social media when I'm at the peak of my own social media perfection or illusion of perfection. I pivot that, because that is straight after I go to, before we do that, before I lose my social media, it's like I go to Madonna. I meet Madonna in New York and I spend some, or she fly me in, so I train together with her, and then I lose access to my social media, so I have to pivot my whole vision again, and then I move in this AI podcasting, public speaking sphere as I'm doing right now, and there's constantly hindrance or impediments of action that I'm managing to make them become the way, because the impediment of action also advances the action. So whenever I'm faced with these things, these obstacles, I don't put any value on it. I don't put any value on the things that are happening. They're happening. Can I control it? Can I control what is happening to me? Can I control the fact that I lose my social media? No, I cannot. Why? Because I did what I could. I could reach out to Facebook, I could do all of these things, or to Meta, I could reach out to this, but I got no answer. So what can I do with that? Nothing. But if the impediment of action advances the action, and what stands in the way becomes the way, I can use this as a catapult to move to pivot or to go in another direction. I can use this fact. I can use this setback. But it's only a setback if I let it become a setback. Why? Because I'm in a position to own everything that is happening to me. So if I own everything that is happening to me, and there is always an obstacle, there's always an opportunity to move in the right direction, then how can I use whatever is happening to go there? Is this making sense? Let's run this whole thing again. So if I'm operating under the truth that what stands in the way becomes the way, and that I only focus on the things that I can control, and I own everything that is happening to me. If I focus on these three things, then I have now mastered my own mind and can use this to go in the right direction. Because all of these things that are happening, I cannot control them. None of these things I could control. I couldn't control that I needed a knee surgery. I couldn't control that. This is things that happen that I've done. I gotta deal with it, right? So as a result of all of this, if you're practicing, because this is all easier said than done. And what most people get wrong is that they are adding what I like to call value judgment. So they're adding values and judging what is happening to them. Oh, a knee surgery. Ugh, that sucks. I lost access to my Instagram. Okay, why is the world against me? I did this and this and this happened to me. Nothing is happening for you. You're always complaining. You're finding ways to complain rather than finding opportunities in the obstacles, because what stands in the way becomes the way. Remember, this is the highlight of today, right? So a lot of things is going to happen to you, and it can be somebody else's fault that it happens to you, right? Like my Instagram got hacked. This is obviously not my fault. This is somebody else's fault. Like he decided to do this. This had nothing to do with me. Now, is it still my responsibility, yes or no? Yes, it is. It's still my responsibility to deal with whatever situation I'm now faced with. So in order for me to do that, I have to own it 100%. And life, here's a strange thing, right? Because I believe that life always whispers truth to you. But if you don't listen to life, if you don't listen to those truths and those clues that life keep whispering to you, life will later have to hold you down, choke you, and scream at you in order for you to understand it. So let's say this thing that, if you guys heard this, if you've seen my TEDx talk, I hope it's out by now. If it's not, if it's out, put a link in the bio. If it's not out, then it's not a link in the bio. Then it's gonna come out, right? But If you know my story, I used to have panic anxiety, depression, dealing with suicidal thoughts as now, right? Now, that was life whispering to me, or not even whispering, at that point, it was life holding me down, choking me, screaming at me, fix your mindset, fix your mental health, fix your body, what are you doing? But if I'm honest with myself, and I look at the previous whispers that I heard my mind giving to me before I came to that breaking point, there were clues along the way, right? But so, life whispers things to you, but say, even if it does, say that what is happening to you is out of your control, right? You could argue that this is not in my control, right? Literally one day I wake up and I start having a panic anxiety attack. Now as a grown up, I can backtrack and I can say like, okay, but this and this and this is probably the reason why. But this is not my fault, right? But it doesn't take away the fact that it still is my responsibility to deal with it, right? So if I wish I did for a minute, right? Like I kept adding value judgment to it. I kept feeling sorry for myself, like a victim mindset things like, why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? Why am I here? I'm a good person, la la la, this is terrible, la la la. But as soon as I started owning the situation and owning the fact that this is happening to me or for me, the obstacle is the way, I can use this in order for me to advance. And then I just acknowledge my progress step by step by step. Because at the end of the day, the situation is what it is. The situation is the situation. Now what? Here's the situation. What can I do with it? I can either stay, do nothing, then the inaction becomes action. That the action I'm taking is inaction. Or I can take action in the advancement of producing some type of outcome here that I can get out of, right? And that's such a hard pill to swallow. That's such a tough pill to swallow, especially when you're going through it. Especially when you're going through it. When you're at the bottom, that's when it's the hardest pill to swallow. Because when you're at the bottom, you just want to give away responsibility. And when you give away responsibility, somebody else, please take responsibility. Take this burden of responsibility away from me so I can just sit back while somebody else fixes me. And all of this comes down to what we've been talking about in previous episodes, that the knowledge is not power, that applied knowledge is power. Because you could have all the knowledge in the world, because you already know if you're watching this, or if you're trying to lose weight, for example, which a lot of us that are watching is trying to, or to gain muscles, like body goals, right? When you're paying for a program, like you don't really need that program. You have all the answers online. You just ask ChatGPT to create you something and hold you accountable, and it will. However, if we're paying somebody, it's kind of like we're giving the responsibility to somebody. It's like, hey, now you are responsibility of my progress. I don't think most people understand how many times I've spoken to future clients or to prospects on the phone, and they say, well, I tried personal trainer, but like he didn't know what he was doing. I had a personal trainer before, but she didn't work for me. She didn't. So what is that? You're giving the responsibility of your failure to somebody else. Same thing as you're giving your responsibility to your success to somebody else. If he does his job good, I will succeed. That's not how it works. You have to own it, right? So if you're watching this, however, and you are in a position where you've been starting different projects and you feel like, wow, I've been starting a personal trainer and I'm not reaching my goals. Well, how do you make that obstacle the way? How do you turn it into an opportunity? Because that's the mindset you gotta adapt, right? The mindset that I have all the time is that momentum is always in my favor. Lost my Instagram. Perfect. I'm in a perfect position to do something new. I got momentum now. Haven't been training in a couple of weeks. Perfect. Now I got momentum to do something great. Just that thought creates momentum for me. And I celebrate that momentum. I'm so fast with celebrating that momentum. It's like, ha, got it, acknowledgement. Now I can move forward. So I'm so fast to acknowledging the momentum, so it's always in my favor. Been training consecutively for 6 months, not a break, perfect, easy, light work, keep going, keep going, keep going. Because you have to focus on what's in control. And that's the thing. I'm doing my absolute best to only focus on what's in control, what's in my control. Everything else is just it's just a bystander. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's there. It doesn't matter if it's not there. What matters is that, can I control it, yes or no? Yes, I can. Perfect. I cannot control it. Ignore it. And then it comes down to thought control, right? So how do you control your thoughts? How do you control on the things that you should focus on? How do you control those things? Well, you focus on them. And you ask yourself the following questions, because that's all it is. It's about asking yourself good questions. Because if you're asking yourself good questions, you will come out at the right end of the question, which is the answer, right? So the question is as follows. Can I control this? Yes or no? Because there are only 3 things. There are things that you can control, things that you can't control, and things that you have some control over. If I play a tennis match, for example, I can't control if I win. I cannot control if I win. I can control that I do my best. That's what I can control. I cannot control how good my opponent is. And then there are things that I have some control over. That's the match, right? I have some control over the match. But even that is like, I can focus on that I'm doing my best. That's what I do. So when I'm going up on stage, for example, or when I'm recording these videos, or when I'm dancing or public speaking, I don't judge my performance how it went. I judge, did I put in the right amount of effort? Did I do my best on stage? Did I set my mind where it needed to be before I went on stage? Does that make sense? Let me know. Like, I would literally know if, I really want to know if this makes sense, because in my mind it makes total sense. And so with all of this, right? Where does it leave? Where does all of this leave us, right? So the impediment of action also advances the action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Obstacle is the opportunity. You're turning an obstacle into opportunity. And how do you do that? It starts with focusing on what you can control, and at the same time taking 100% ownership that whatever is happening to you, it might be somebody else's fault, but it's still your responsibility, which is such a hard pill to swallow, especially when you're at the bottom. Now, if you do all of these things, you're focusing on what you can control, and you're doing what we spoke about previously, is your thought control, instead of focusing on all the things that you cannot control, and your brain will play tricks on you, right? So your brain will go there, and then it will go back to the negative pit, because you've been stuck in this thought process for such a long time. So negative thinking is your current addiction. You're a slave to your mind, literally. This is what Bob Marley says when he talks about emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None of yourself can save our minds. And when we are down in this pit of negativity, what we can do is that as soon as we start to think about, I'm so bad, instead of thinking of those negative self-talk, you try to flip that thought. And you try to flip that into thinking about all the things you are good at. And then instead of like improvising, because then after a while it's gonna get tiring, you focus on one thing that you actually think you're good at. So you're changing the direction of your thoughts. And every time you think about it, you change the direction. And you think about it and you change your direction. And it's gonna be hard and you're gonna forget it, but the more you keep practicing it, the more you're creating these neural pathways, and the stronger your mind gets, and the easier it gets for you to control your thoughts. I used to have an alarm on my watch that went off every 15 minutes in order for me to remember to think on something, or to remind myself to change my thought. If I thought about that thing, that negative thing, I wanted to change my thought pattern. So every 15 minutes, a vibration went off on my watch to remind myself to put my mind where it needed to be, in a positive or neutral mindset. Because I'm not even sure if positive thinking is working. Like, there is no research saying that positive thinking is working, as far as I know. As far as I know, there's other people that might argue. But I'm 100% certain that thinking negatively will affect you negatively 100% of the time. So if you can find a way to remind yourself of moving that in other directions, in the right direction, to at least go neutral, then you can turn all of whatever is happening to you into an opportunity. Got sick. Amazing. It's a fantastic opportunity for you to focus on your mindset. Maybe you should read one of those books that you bought a couple of years ago but still haven't bought. Injured myself, can't train, same answer. Don't have food at home, fantastic. Why don't you learn how to cook? I'm gonna take that back because I don't have food at home either, so I'm not gonna learn how to cook. I'm gonna buy food. I'm gonna go buy food. There is exceptions to every rule. The rule creates the exception creates the rule. I'm not only talking to me, I'm talking to you. Now, I hope this makes sense, right? Does this make sense, guys? I got my team with me here.
Makes sense.
The team on the sofa. Yeah. So the impediment of action becomes the action. Advances the action. What stands in the way later becomes the way. Make sure to always create momentum in whatever situation you're in. Momentum is always in your favor if you come with that mind frame. So the more you practice this, the more you practice on taking your own responsibility, the more you will advance. Let me bring up my cheat sheet here and see if I forgot everything. Anything? Oh, got it. Got it, because this is your choice. You have the choice to do something now. It's the same as we spoke about last week, we spoke about the burden of knowledge, right? And what that is that, like, same thing now. You know this now. We've been talking about it. But at what point are you going to actually take action? At what point are you actually going to take action on this? Because all of these things that we keep on talking day in and day out, it doesn't matter if you don't move on it. It doesn't matter if you move on. So please let me know in the comments. What are you thinking? What are you thinking about True Versations by now? Are you subscribing? Are you liking this video? If you have, I love you. If you don't, please, I still love you. Make sure to do so we can make sure that we move in the right direction, because we want to put out more of this, but we need to know what is giving you value, what is adding value to your life. Let us know. Stay sharp.
Now it's after questions.
Now we got the after party. After party is the after party.
So no true thoughts. Let's keep it in English in case we have something after that.
Huh.
I mean, the concept is clear as ice. It's easy, no? It's not.
But isn't that kind of the thing? The thing is that it shouldn't be easy. Why should it be easy? Why does it have to be easy, right? Because that's the thing. What we keep hearing is that, but it's not easy, but it's doable. Like, I can do it, but it's not easy. It doesn't need. Why is that even? Why do we even mention that? Right? Like, why does it need to be easy? Everything that is worth having is hard. It's hard to do this. Why? But what are you trying to accomplish here? What are you actively pursuing? What accomplishment are you actively pursuing? What are you accomplishing? Like mental peace, mental tranquility, like advancement of life. You're becoming one of the very, very few people. You're becoming one among us very few people that are constantly turning whatever curveball life is throwing at us into an opportunity to do something amazing. Like, that is not an easy thing to do. It shouldn't be easy, because then everybody should do it, but it's attainable for everyone. That's the thing.
Do you think people, like in ancient times, were more wise in this sense?
I think if
Percentage-wise.
I don't think I don't think people were wiser back in times. I think we love to romanticize how people were anciently. I think they were very, very similar to us. I think this is why when you read like Stoic teachings, those problems are very relatable. Like if you read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, he's literally being worshipped as a god during this time. He's the most powerful man on earth. And he's dealing with, and his journal is having conversations with himself, to himself, and it's about normal things. And we can see when we're reading Meditations that this was not supposed to be to anybody else than to himself, because he's writing, do you remember when this happened? Or you remember when that happened? And you remember how you acted? And nobody's telling him what to do. So he's writing this to himself, and you can see clear, like he's dealing with the same struggle as all of us. It's good, and because I believe that, because I think it's the same thing when you're meeting an artist. So many times we meet world famous artists here in Cape Verde or when we're out traveling, and they have the same problems that the normal man do. They are normal people.
Yeah, of course. I just think it's the question I wanted to initially answer the question if it's like all the distractions in the world now with internet, TikTok, stuff like this. If that is the excuse we can use to why people are not like doing these hard or easy steps, but great outcome. Building yourself as a that person that you want to become, of course.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Maybe we're confused. It's harder to find the path now with so many options.
I think we are in a world where we're in a time where the majority of people are addicted to self-development content versus there were no self-development content back in the ancient times, as far as I'm aware, versus reading like philosophical teachings, which is, well, you can argue that Stoic teachings are a self-development program or way of life, so to say, but it's about doing it. Yeah. It's not about consuming it. At some point you gotta go out and live it, right? And that's also the thing when you meet influencers. You meet all of these influencers. I don't know how many influencers I met that are talking about self-confidence, self-love, financial literacy, stoicism, and then you meet them and they are the absolute counterpart to what they're teaching. They are the antidote. They should be teaching they should be doing what they're teaching, because they know they're not, right? And I think it's exactly the same thing. We are so addicted to content. So there's a lot of script scholars out there, right? A lot of people are great in just quoting quotes, right? This is why I like to do conversations, because we're starting with a quote and then we're talking about it for 20 minutes or 30 minutes to show like, okay, but this is the quote, and then this is life experiences, and then here is how it's actually can relate to your life, and here's a solution or a possible solution, versus just saying it and just repeating it a couple of times and putting a cool video, you walking in slow motion, and no more. But we're so addicted to that, so it's hard to see the difference. Who is a script scholar and just a TikTok knowledge versus who is somebody who actually knows what he's talking about, right?
We've always been looking for, even back in the days before, of course, they had other things to play. It's like, I don't have time or whatever. Like, life was tough. Life is tough. Life is tough. I think life should be tough. Life should be tough. Like that, it's designed to be tough. It was never designed to be easy. We are designed to live, and you can see that when people are not doing tough things, they get depressed. They get out of their line, right? Like we are constantly searching for toughness and struggle, and this is why you see like some of the most privileged people on the planet, they're still searching for belonging, searching for struggle. I heard this great podcast with, what's her name? Sadia Psychology, right? And she says that it's so incredible that the English white woman, which is arguably the most privileged woman on the planet, is constantly complaining about patriarchy, how the patriarchy is pressing her down, and that men have it better than women, that they want the same rights as women, but they don't want the same rights as, like, they are so
they're so privileged that it's hard for them to accept the fact that they are so privileged that they have to find suffering somewhere, even if the world is designed for them to succeed. And then it's like, yeah, but what about these men? It's like, we want the same, how do you say that in English? We want the same benefits or help me. We want the same benefits or opportunities as men. It's like, well, do you? Do you really? Who do you think has most benefits? Me showing up at an airport with my turban, with my beard, with my black family, or an English white woman? Who has most benefits in that time? Who has most benefits? Who is most entitled in that opportunity? Me or an English woman? An English woman, obviously. Who gets stopped by the police more? My cousin from Cape Verde or an English white woman? An English white woman, obviously. So you don't want the same privilege as men, you want the same privilege as a certain percentage of men. That's what you want. So we're constantly searching for struggle, constantly searching for ways to advance. And I think it's normal, so I don't judge them because I believe it's a normal way. We're constantly doing that. Constantly.
In order to advance.
In order to advance, in order to feel good about ourselves, in order to feel belonging, in order to fit in. I think it's a constant struggle for man.